Hello lovely people, I'm K3N and welcome to this week's rather windswept episode of Park Home Life. This week I want to take you to a little exhibition, well not a little exhibition, an exhibition of my friend Maria's that was in Ilminster Arts Centre. Actually it closes tomorrow, Saturday the 23rd, so that will be your last chance to see it. Oh, typically she's just put her tennis ball under the sofa. Stella, your timing is impeccable. Just wait 1 second. 1 sec, maybe two. So that will be first up. Following on from that will be the clock chiming 12. Never worked with children, dogs or chiming clocks, isn't that what they say? Following on from that will be, I'll let the clock finish. I should have waited, shouldn't I? Sorry about that. So Maria's exhibition, which is called Life is Not Still. And those words, I've used them here in the title of this video, but I've been thinking about them a lot since then, because they really resonated with me. So I've got more to say about that at the end of the video. Following on from the little tour of the exhibition will be me crocheting the cuffs on this jumper, because I talked about it recently and a lot of you asked. Now I actually recorded me doing this when I was back in France, so I've edited that video down to show you the actual crocheting, which is just, you know, on my desk under my light, but I've taken out the ending where I'm standing in my studio in France showing you the finished sweater. So in the video I'll refer to that, but that won't be there. I just didn't want to, you know, those of you who've been with me on this journey might understand why I didn't really want to put that up. It would also be confusing to new people. You'd think, where on earth is she now? That's not her studio. Her studio is a little box room with cheese boxes on the wall. So anyway, so this is the jumper with the crocheted sleeves, which I did change slightly following the video. You'll see that in the video they're all red. I pulled them back because I wanted some red to go. I don't know if I can show you around the bottom as well. But anyway, so that's there. So if you're not interested in the crochet, you can just fast forward that bit. And then following on from that, it actually snowed here this morning. So Stella and I went for a little snowy walk in the woods. So I've got some video of that for you. And so when you've watched all that, or whatever of that you'd like to watch, I'll be back at the end. I'll show you a little change that I've made in my kitchen. And then I'll be back here in my chair and we can have a chat further. Okay, so enjoy the video. This is my friend Maria Harriman's exhibition called Life is Not Still at the Ilminster Arts Centre, Ilminster, sorry that came out funny, in Ilminster, Somerset. It's on until the 23rd of November, which will be tomorrow when you see this. So I hope you manage to see it if you could. So this is the entrance to the gallery of the beautiful Ilminster Arts Centre that was historically a Quaker meeting house, but now it's an art centre and there are workshops there and a lovely cafe. And actually when I lived in Ilminster it was where I used to teach many of my workshops. So this work of Maria's is multimedia. There are some textiles. Here you see this beautiful log cabin straight ahead of you as you enter the gallery. I'm going to go in closer, am I? Oh no, I'm going to show you the painting. There are also some paintings with wild plants in vases in her home, in the home environment, because this whole body of work is about experiencing nature on her walks through various local environments to her and the plants that grow there. And then, yes, we loved this, that I was talking to a friend of mine about it, and then here you see some of the plants in the home environment. It's like a crossover. This is one of my favourites with the blue sofa in the background. And that's April. The word April is right at the top of that. I think I'm going to zoom in, am I? Can you just make out the word April there? Yeah. And here's another still life. Moving around the gallery to this other textile piece. These beautiful vibrant greens and yellows. It's very spring-like. And Maria works with the sewing machine, but also with a lot of hand stitching as well, and she often combines the two in one piece. Now this piece is a scroll, a long scroll, which kind of speaks represents a path, and this is a section of the path alongside the Kennet and Avon Canal in the west of England, from the little town of Bradford on Avon at one end to I think it's Semmington at the other. And along the path are all these historical bridges which she's catalogued, and many of them have numbers on them, you know, serial numbers. But what I love about it is as she's walked this stretch of canal, she's sort of done a warts and all diary of it. There you see the word Lidl. Lidl is a supermarket. It's actually a German company. It's here in the UK as well. And there was a reference there to dog poo. So, you know, she doesn't romanticise it. It's the environment as it actually is. And I'll just scan you down this scroll. Some hand stitching on it as well. And it's lovely laid out here on this lovely long windowsill. I love the colours in that little piece of cloth there. Many of these cloths will have been, if not all of them, possibly painted or printed by Maria herself. There's Hilperton Marsh, a little footbridge with some bulrushes in the foreground. And there's even a one that's missing, is reference, number 164 missing. And some couching there of those, look like they're moving those pieces of couching. Wadden Bridge. And then there the other end, yes, indeed, Semmington. I'd remember correctly. Phew. Sorry, that was a bit spinny. This is another thing that Maria does, which is lino cutting, which I don't know very much about technically, but I think simply what you do is you cut the shape out of a piece of lino, and then you use that as a printing mechanism. And I'm zooming in there on the Alder because Maria kindly gave me a print of the Alder, which is now hanging here in my home. And this large piece here has lots of hand stitching on. And this is cataloguing the month of November. So you see the autumnal colours. It's November in the northern hemisphere. Is obviously autumn going into winter. You see the stitching there down those strips in the middle. And then stitched into the bottom and the top, I hope it shows up on the camera, is the word November. Sorry about my shadow. I think you can just about make it out, or at least that there are words there. When it's stitched in the same colour thread, so it's quite subtle. But yes, lovely stitching. And lovely colours. And a lovely big, I mean, it's definitely a quilt, you know, it's quilt size, but I love this sort of crossover of art and quilting. And I always have done. I think it's wonderful here in this exhibition to see art presented, the same ideas, the same stories told through all these different all these different creative mechanisms. So here is, again, lino cutting, textiles, painting. It's kind of blurring the boundaries between the different mediums, but presenting it all as, quite rightly, as art. Now this piece, and another piece I'll show you in a little while, is relatively new work, and these little rectangular sections, Maria has used fabric as a printing press. Is that the right word? I'm not a printer. Basically what she's done is she's taken all different kinds of fabrics and then inked them and then used them to print onto her cloth. So you see some you see quite obvious textures where she's used lace and things, you see the actual pattern, and others are just much more the grain or the weave of the cloth and the different marks that they make. And then over that she's printed some leaf shapes. Some of the more coloured sections she's appliqued on, and the juxtaposition of the grid of the squares and the rectangles, and then the organic shapes over the top. It's just so striking. And there's also some machine stitching. She stitched the lines between the grids by machine, but there's also some hand stitching as well in between. Around the botanical forms there's a lot of seed stitching, which is obviously appropriate for botanical forms. There's just so much depth, you could look at it for hours and see something new. And it's quite big. I think it was, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet square, something like that. So again, a large piece. You see up there the lace with the curved edge, and then the curve of the rectangular piece is kind of mirroring that. So it's the play-off between the straight geometric lines and the curved lines, and then the more organic shapes of nature. I think I'm going to show you what it's called. I can't read that. I hope you can. I can't remember. I can't. I'm sorry. And here is another piece in the same style. This, I just love the colours in this. I'm doing my best here. This is actually hanging in the cafe, and I had to wait for the people that were sitting at the table under it to finish their tea and cake so that I could get in. So I had to sidle in between 2 tables. But yeah, again, it's using cloth as a means of printing onto another cloth, and the grids and the textures, and you see again the printing of the lace. But yeah, that shade of olivey green, and then those little colours of the muted colours of the appliqued squares. I just loved everything about it, and the curves there again. And another thing I loved, I do think I show you, which was also on the red piece that we just looked at, but I noticed it more on this one. I don't know why that was, but that the edges are not straight. Well, they're straight, but they're staggered. Go down, Catherine. Pan down and show the people what you're talking about. I'm still showing you the lovely lace prints and the stitching. Come on, down we go. Coming up. There we go. Do you see? So the one piece is longer than the other, and it just broke up the boundary. It just made the whole thing come alive in some way. There's a stack of chairs. Oh, I'm zooming in again for the title. I think it's called Life on the Edge. In this video, I'm going to fix this sweater that I made for myself not very long ago. I wanted a sort of cropped, boxy sweater in neutral colours, so I made myself one. And then somehow it went in the laundry, and it shrunk a bit, and it felted ever so slightly. And it's still fine, you know, the body of it. I blocked it, which means that when it came out while it was damp, I spread it out and pinned it, you know, as best I could. But it's a little bit too cropped, but that's okay. But the worst thing is that the sleeves are now 2 inches too short. So I thought, what can I do about that? Well, I knit it top down. So I started at the neck and knitted down the sleeves and down the body. So this is my cast off edge. Now I could unpick this and then just knit some more cuff. But because it's a bit felted, I think that would be difficult to pull it back, and, you know, it would look too different. So what I decided to do anyway is crochet some cuffs onto it. Ta-da! So I did one just to see how it would work out. And I'm really pleased with it. It's kind of in the spirit of visible mending, you know, it's not trying to hide the fact that I've done something to it, but it looks kind of intentional. Well, it will when I do the other one. So I've chosen some yarn that's similar weight to what I made the sweater with, and all I've got is this little bit left. Can't remember what it is or where it came from. It's about Aran weight. I think it's got some wool in it, but it's certainly also got some synthetic in it. So what I'm going to do is, I'll show you it at the end. You know, once I've done it all, I'll put it on and show you so you can see the whole thing. So what I want to do is I want to use a hook. This is one of my crochet hooks. These are by a company called Divot Shilp in India, and they're wooden, and I love them. They're sort of ergonomic. But that's a 3.5mm hook. It says E. I'm not sure what that is in US sizes, I'm sorry. But that's the size that gives me a nice fabric with the yarn I want to use. But it's really hard to pick up the stitches with it because it's so big. So I'm going to pick up with this teeny tiny, this is actually one of my daughter's cheapies that she got when she first learnt to crochet. But it's the only one that I can find that's small enough. It looks like about a 2mm, something like that. So all I'm going to do, and if you don't know how to crochet, you know, it's super simple. You could have a go if you can find yourself a crochet hook. So I get myself a tail, And I'm just going to go through, on my cast off edge are the little V's, you know, of the stitches. I'm just going to start sort of anywhere, maybe where the underarm part of the sleeve would be. And I'm going to go through just the outside leg of that V. I'll hold it up, hopefully you can see. Do you see the little V's? It's a bit fluffy and felty. I'm just going to put my hook under the outside edge because it's quite tight. If it was a looser knit, I might go through both legs. So I would just have an experiment and see if you pull it, does that make a big hole or not? Sometimes if you just go through one leg on a loose knit and pull, it makes a big hole. But on this it was fine, one hole. Anyway, so I hold my crochet yarn over my little finger, just to tension it a bit, and then over my index finger like that. So, and I'm just going to start by pulling up a loop through my hole and splitting my yarn straight away. Of course I am. There we go. That's too much tail. I'm just going to pull that through a bit because I want to have as much yarn as possible. Just enough of a tail to sew in at the end. So maybe 6 inches. So then I get my working yarn back again over my little finger and over my index finger like that. And then hold that other tail firmly out of the way. And then I'm just going to go around picking up every leg of the stitch, every knit stitch nearest to me, and it's a bit fiddly, and then pull through a loop. So now I've got 2 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to get some more yarn around my hook and go through both loops. And that's a single crochet in US terms, a double crochet in UK. I learnt US terms, they just make more sense to me, so apologies if you know English terms. So I'm just going to go in the next one, it's quite hard to see, and do the same thing. Pull the yarn through, 2 loops on my hook, get another loop of yarn and go through both loops. And I'm doing that quite loosely so that my crochet stitches afterwards will be easy to pick up with my bigger hook. So I'm just going to work my way around doing that, and then when I get back to the beginning I'll come back and show you what I do then. Okay, so I've gone all the way around with a single crochet, tuck that tail in out of the way, and I've just pulled that last loop up big so it doesn't come undone. So now I've got the little gap between my last stitch and my first stitch. To join that I'm going to do a slip stitch, but before I did on the first one I just stuck my arm in, here comes my arm, just to make sure that it wasn't too tight around my wrist, you know, that I could still get my hand through. And it's not, it's fine, because that's a fine hook. So when I go up to my bigger hook it's going to get slightly looser. If it had been too tight I would have had to pull it back, and then I might have done some increases depending on how tight it was. So I might, for example, have done 2 single crochets into every 3rd stitch or something like that. It would have just been a matter of trial and error to make sure that I got the cuff big enough. So, you know, if you do it and you find it's too tight, that's what you could do. So you just go into your stitch, make your single crochet, and then go back into the same stitch and make another single crochet. That's an increase. Or double crochet if you're in the UK and you use UK terms. So the next thing I'm going to do is still using my little hook just for the last slip stitch. So I'll just pull my sleeves up out of the way. So I just got my hook back in that loop. So I'm going to just slip stitch that to the first stitch that I made. Whoops, it's a bit snaggy, this yarn. So all I'm going to do is go, do you see the V of the first stitch that I made there? Do you see that there? I've got my hook through it. So I'm just going to go through that with my hook, grab my yarn, pull it through, and then pull it through again. And that's the slip stitch. So now it's all joined up. So now I can change to my lovely divot shilp and not this teeny tiny weird thing. Now I've been told I crochet weird. I knit weird, I crochet weird. I'm sorry if it looks weird. That's how I do it. I think there's 2 ways. Most people, I think, hold the hook like a pen, and I hold it like a knife. So, you know, apologies if it looks weird to you, but it's just what I do. So what I'm going to do is called, I believe, a linen stitch, which is a single crochet and a chain, and that's it. That's all there is to it. So I've just done my slip stitch. I'm going to do one chain just to get myself up onto my next round. So all a chain is just pulling a loop through your stitch like that. And now I'm going to do a second chain, which is my first chain one, if that makes sense. So do 2 chains at the beginning, simple. So now you can see the spaces. Got one of my hairs in there. I'll just use this to show you. Do you see? So that's the stitch I'm in there. And this is the next stitch. I'm assuming that you don't know how to crochet because I think that anybody could do this, even if you can't crochet. So do you see that's my next space there? And then that's my next space, and so on. I'm under the V of the crochet stitch. So I've done my 2 chains, so I'm going to go into the next space along and do a single crochet, which is hook your yarn through and then get another loop of yarn over your hook and go through those 2 loops. That's a single crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1, just pull a loop through, and I'm going to miss a space. So I'm missing that one, and I'm going into the next one with my hook through both legs, pull up through your loop, and then pull another loop through both stitches for a single crochet, and chain 1, and then miss a space, or miss a stitch rather, and go into the next stitch, single crochet, and then a chain 1, and then miss a space, next space, single crochet, chain 1, and I'm going to do that all the way around, missing a space, single crochet, chain 1, all the way back to the beginning, and then I'll be back again. Okay, so I'm right back to the beginning where I started, and if I put my hook here, you'll see those are the 2 chains I did to start with. Do you see? Now it's worked out fine because I can just go into there now, and I had the right number of spaces and stitches. If I didn't, I might just skip 2 spaces, or I might put an extra stitch in. Doesn't matter. The joy of crochet that I love is that you can do a lot of fudging. So just take a view, with your own project, if you just want to hook into there straight away and skip 2 spaces, or you feel you need an extra stitch, maybe your cuff was a little bit tighter, whatever. So just to join, so I'm going to put my hook into that space under those 2 chain stitches. Can you see? And just do another slip stitch. So that's just grabbing the yarn, pulling it through the space, and then pulling it through the loop on your hook. And that is round 1. And what I then do, because from now on, excuse my arm, I apologise. I should have got one out in advance. Is there one in here even? I want a little stitch mark. Oh, there's one right down in there. It's a plastic one, but it'll do the job. Come here. Sorry, that was a stitch holder going on the floor, doesn't matter. I'm now going to spiral. You could do it as a series of rounds, slip stitching and chaining yourself up every time, but I can't be bothered basically, and it looks fine if you just spiral. So just to remember where I started, I'm just going to put that stitch marker just through somewhere below where I'm working. I'm not going to bother doing it up, I'm just going to leave that sitting there. The worst thing about crocheting around a sleeve is it gets all twisty. So you can either untwist your jumper or your sweater every now and then, or you can untwist your hook and your yarn. So for this round and all the rest of the rounds, and I did a total of 12 rounds to get my sleeve was about 2 inches too short. I'll show you what you do. So I'll show you the first round. So all I've done is my slip stitch. So now I need to chain 1 to jump myself up. And now I'm going to go into this first space here with a single crochet. And you see there's a funny little bar across there. I'm just going to go to one side of it, pull through and single crochet and chain 1. And then I'm going to, and you see you've got these lovely big spaces now because of the chains that we did. So now into every space I single crochet and chain 1. Do you see that bar? I'm just keeping to the right of it every time. single crochet, chain 1, next space, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, whoops, chain 1. And that is pretty much all there is to it. Single crochet, chain 1. You could do that. I'll just keep on chatting for a bit and then I'll go away and finish it and come back. But I just wanted to say that you could do this, you know, I'm doing it as kind of a fix because my sleeve shrunk. You could do it as a decorative thing, you know, just put 1 or 2 rounds on. You could factor it in if you had you were making a sweater. Leave it a bit short to do this. I think it looks really nice. If you buy a thrifted sweater and it's too short, you know, you can modify by doing this around the cuffs or around the length or around the neckline, anywhere really. I've always loved the combination of knitting and crocheting because I knit a lot of blankets with my leftover bits and bobs. I will show at one point how I make mitered square blankets. And I always like to put a crocheted edge around that. I crochet blankets as well, of course, but you know. And I find crocheting so relaxing to do because I just think I don't know what it is about it. And also, I have very, very mild arthritis in my left hand. That flares up from time to time, and especially if I do a lot of knitting of socks on little needles. And I just find that, I don't know, it's something about the action of crocheting is kind of like, you know, yoga for my hands. So I'm nearly back to the stitch marker. And I'm just going to carry on round. I'm not even going to, you know, I'm just going into the next space, single crochet, chain 1, and just keep going round until I've done 12 rounds. Now here, I want to be careful that I'm going into the second round. Do you see? I don't want to go back down into there. That's the first round, and it'll become obvious as you go along. But I need to go into here because this first space is a bit small because it was only the chain. I'm just going to single crochet into it and chain 1, and then off I go again all the way around. So I'll do my 12 rounds and then I'll come back at the end. Okay, so I'm just coming around on my 12th round, and there's my stitch marker. I could have moved it up as I went along. It's only really there to show me where I started. So I've got 2 or 3 more stitches to do. So there's my next space. You really, if you're new to crocheting, you'll see that the previous round tends to sit down against the round below. So it is quite tempting to go into that bigger space down there. Do you see? Don't go there. That's not the space that you need to be in. There's the single crochet of the previous round here in between that one and my thumb, that one there, and here is the space. If I show you this space, it's maybe easier to see. Do you see that's the space you're working into? So all there is on top of my hook is that one chain stitch from the previous round. You don't want to be going down in here, however inviting that space looks. Right, so I'll just do my last few. Obvious, I've done my chain. You can see you've done your chain because where my working yarn's coming through, there's only 1 loop on it. If there were 2 loops, then I'd know that had been my single crochet. So then I'd need to chain. Always worth paying attention and learning to read your knitting, your crochet, whatever. Can save you a lot of heartache. So I'm in this space here already. Do you see my stitch in that space? So here's my next space past that single crochet there. So I need to go into there. If you're an experienced crocheter, you know, just ignore me. This is just for people who've maybe not crocheted before. So I'm going to go to here. I'm just drawing a line by eye. If I'm 1 or 2 stitches out, it doesn't matter. As long as it looks okay overall, nobody's going to come and count your stitches on your cuffs. I'm going to do 1 more. And chain 1 as normal, and then I'm going to go into the next space, but I'm just going to slip stitch. So I'm just going to pull my yarn through pull my yarn through, no more yarning overs. So I've just got one loop on my hook, and then I'm going to cut my end, leaving 6 inches or so. And then I'm just going to get that yarn again and just pull it through that loop like that, and then pull it up tight. And then do you see that little kind of fake stitch you've made there by putting your yarn through? When I stitch that in, I'll just make sure that lays down. Do you see? That's just disappeared now, nice and flat. So I need to sew my 2 ends in. And then what I'm going to do, since I've only got this bit left, I do want to put a little bit around the bottom of my jumper. I think what I'm going to do is go and do some, I've got some of this left, I might go and do some single crochet chain 1 linen stitch around the bottom with some of this until I think it's, you know, nearly as long as I want it, and then I'll just use this as far as it goes. If it's just, you know, 2 or 3 rounds even, or even a couple of rounds, it'll just, I think it'll just tone nicely with the sleeves. So I shall go and do that. And the other thing I wanted to mention before I forget, when I talked about if your cuff's too tight, you can increase by single crocheting twice into the same stitch. Conversely, if the cuff's really loose and baggy and you want to pull it in a bit, always do your single crochet in every stitch going around the first time, I would say, and then in the next time round where you're doing your single crochet chain 1 for the first time and missing a space, if your cuff's really loose, you could miss 2 spaces every so often. Do you see what I mean? Just to pull it in a bit. You can just trial and error, because crochet is easy peasy to pull back. You just pull back to where you want, stick your hook through the loop, and on you go again. You know, it's not like knitting. One of the other reasons I like it. So anyway, so that's linen stitch. You see, it makes this lovely sort of diagonal lines because of the staggering of your single crochets. I just think it's a lovely texture, and it's a little tiny bit. It's not mega stretchy, but I don't really like my cuffs ribbed so that they pull right in, you know. Anyway, and if I just put my arm through now, it's finished. Just to show you quickly, you'll see it sits quite nicely against my cuff there, apart from the tail. Get the tail out of the way. And yeah, I think actually, you know, from disaster has been born a new improved version of my jumper. So I'll go and do the bottom, and then I'll come back when I finish that and show you the whole finished thing. We've come for a little walk. It's been snowing, but you can see here under the trees there's hardly any snow. There's a little bit on the ground up there where it's open. You can see some here on the branches. But it's already melting. So what you can hear is not rain, but it's the snow melting off the trees there on the branch. This is the beach where my bundle is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the bundle I made for the journaling video, the slow journaling. It's tucked in here, look. Got some snow on it. Have a look at the tree. If I look up, I get snow in my eyes. I'll just turn the camera around and show you my get up. Here I am. Hello. A woolly hat and the poncho. I should have brought my sorry, there's a lady walking past. Should have brought my what do they call them, selfie stick, so I could get further away. Anyway, I'll turn you back round so you can see the lovely woods, and I didn't even brush my hair because I thought I'm putting a hat on, who cares. It's a funny thing about snow. No matter how old you are, I think, unless maybe you live in one of those countries where you've got several feet and it lasts for months and it's just, you know, awful. I woke up this morning and I opened the blinds and I saw the snow and I felt a little childlike kind of, oh, it snowed, I want to go for a walk. Anyway, I'll turn you back round and we'll walk further down. There's more people coming now. Other people enjoying the snow. Sorry about my glove. Now we're coming down to where it opens up a little bit so you can see the snow. This is really for those of you in countries that don't get snow. When I opened the private Facebook group, the Slow Stitch with K3N Facebook group this morning, a lady had posted a picture of snow that was about 5 feet deep in front of her barn door. So this is not for you. This is gentle English snow, gentle southwest English snow. You can see it here on the brambles. Doesn't it just make everything look like it's got the frosting of a cake on it or something of that kind? Just makes everything look lovely until it starts melting and goes all brown and slushy. There's two little friends having fun with the ball. Stella's gone back into the woods there. Dog poo bin. What are you doing in there? Stellas, come on. She hasn't done the fox, in case you're wondering about the fox poo, she hasn't done that for a while, touch wood. Hang on, I'm going to tap myself on the head to touch wood. Touch wood. So hopefully that that little habit is over with. She's going to go and play with the other dogs. No, she's not. I didn't bring her ball. I could have brought her ball. Anyway. So you see the path is already brown again. Just go on a little bit into these trees. What's in there? Is there something in there? Oh, she always looks in there. I wonder if that's where the fox comes through, because there is a kind of... Sorry for the sudden movement. There's a kind of little track going up through there. Come on, Stels, we'll go around, we'll go back into the woods. Because otherwise she will steal their ball and not give it back. Come on. You see under the trees have completely captured the snow, so it hasn't reached the ground. Well, here and there and there you see little sprinklings that have made it through. Well, there's still quite a lot of leaves left. The light through there with the bench, that's just beautiful. Sorry for the wobbling, I'm trembling, I'm a bit cold actually. It's because I had to take a glove off to turn the camera on. And if my hands and feet are cold, then that's when I'm cold. Even though the rest of me's warm. Anyway, so that's the first snow of the year. Who knows whether we'll get any more. It's not known for snow really, the West Country. It's quite mild down here generally. But anyway, we had snow today. She's gone crack a dog. You gone crack a dog? You got snow in your beard. Oh, there's a friend coming to play now. Oh, there she goes. They never catch her. She's very fast. I can't turn you around fast enough. There she goes. You can hear the crunching. If I shut up, you listen to the crunching of my feet. I don't know if it picks it up without a microphone. That's it. That crack-a-dog moment is over. Well, they become shorter and shorter as she gets older. I mean, she's going to be 10... Well, what date is it? She's going to be 10 on the 28th of November, so that's next week, isn't it? Yes. So she's nearly 10. You got your bandana wet. We're going to have to hang that over a radiator when we get home, aren't we? She's eating it. What's that? Just reminded me of that, you know, when people ask for advice, there's a joke, isn't there? Oh, can you give me your advice? And the response is, don't eat yellow snow. It's just made me think of that. Do you know that thing? Yeah. Sorry. Toilet humour. Come on, Stels, let's go. Stels. No, she wants to eat all the snow. You want to eat all the snow? Let's go home and have a cup of tea. Well, not you, obviously. You can have a biscuit. I don't think it's good for you to eat snow. I'm going home now for a cup of tea because my hands are frozen. I'm going to put my glove back on. See you in a minute. Okay, we just got back from our walk. Before I sit down and make a cup of tea and have a little chat with you, I thought I'd just show you the back kitchen window. That's obviously Stella. She'll now lick her feet. I have given her a little rub with a towel, but she'll now lick her feet to dry them. So if you hear noises noises off, as they say. That's what she's doing. I must take her bandana off as well. Come here, let's take that off because it's soggy. Can I do it one-handed? Little eyes. I don't know if I can do it one-handed. Yes, I can. It's quite soggy. I just don't want her to have that round her neck. There's a good girl. We'll hang that up in a minute. Okay. The table's a mess, so I'll shoot round it. So my back window, I can't remember last time. I think I mentioned the stitching piece that I was going to hang, but I don't know if it was already up or not. What I've done is, that was a slow stitch piece that I'd started years ago. It's a bit dark in here. Let me just try and put the light on. It's actually a lovely light. You know that lovely light you get when there's snow outside? There we go. So I finished doing all my slow stitching on it. I'll take you in for a closer look because some of you asked last time for a closer look. So I've done all kinds of stitching: eyelet stitch, running stitch, blanket stitch, chain stitch, all kinds of stitching. Sometimes round the leaves and sometimes just following the shapes between them. Can I get through there without bumping myself on the table? And then when I'd finished my stitching, I stitched it. If I lift it up, you can see just to the top and to the sides. I'd stitched, sorry for going fast, I didn't stitch this bottom edge through because otherwise that stitching would have shown on the other side of the curtain. Not that it really would have mattered, but I just liked it sort of hanging like that, almost like a pelmet. And this piece of curtain, it's actually polyester. It's what was here when I bought the place, and it had a hole in. I found this, you know, managed to get a big enough piece out, but there was one little hole, so I've just mended it with that little scrap there, visible style, rather than trying to hide it. And then I went to see a friend last week, and she had bought this shelf. It's a new shelf from IKEA, I believe, to use in her home, but it hadn't, you know, when she got it home it wasn't right, so I bought it off her. She tried to give it to me, but I insisted on paying her, you know, what she'd paid for it. And so I've put it up above there, above the window. Many of you suggested putting shelves above the window, and I thought it was a great idea. Now you'll see it is slightly shorter than the window, but that's okay, because if it had gone the full length, that door wouldn't have opened properly. That door where the boiler is, and also the hoover and my laundry basket and cleaning supplies and spare dog food, and it's amazing what's in there. Loads of stuff. But I just love that little shelf up there, and you know, I've put some bits and bobs on it. So there's a vase on the right that a friend of mine who's a potter made for me years ago. And there's one of my spode jugs, and then the fish that's actually got little cocktail sticks in. That was my grandmother's. And then there's a spode plate, and there's my weathered scroll, and there's a little silver teapot that I got in a junk shop years ago. And then there's another vase at the other end, which my friend, also the same potter friend, made me. And the one on the left was quite early, I believe, in her potterying, and the one on the right was when she got more, you know, more expert at it, shall we say. So that's lovely. So I'm planning to do something similar around my other windows. So I'm going to turn the camera off and make myself a cup of tea and set up my tripod, and we can have a little chat. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I just want to say apologies in the beginning. There's only one bong for my hair. I found it quite irritating to watch myself. I had an annoying little rat's tail, but I didn't want to go back and you know, make the video again, because it would have not felt sort of immediate, and you know, trying to keep it real, as they say. I was going to then film this section, but the gas lorry came and started filling up my neighbour's gas tank, and that was not a pleasant noise to have in the background. So an hour has passed, as you'll see by the bonging of the clock. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the tour of the exhibition and the crocheting, if you watched that, if that was interesting to you, and the little walk in the woods and Stella in the little spattering of snow that we've had. The sun's now starting to come out, which is nice. Maybe later we'll have another walk. Who knows? So I talked about the title of Maria's exhibition, Life is Not Still, and how that resonated with me, and I've been giving that some thought. And at the same time, whilst I've been making the journaling videos, part one's already aired last Friday, and that will be fortnightly. Next year I want to do much more journaling, you know, the stitching obviously always, but kind of personal journaling, because 2024 has been quite a year for me personally, and you know, obviously there's things in the wider world that are also challenging to many people, and I just feel that for 2025 I would like to kind of make a commitment to journal in a sort of self-caring, processing kind of way, if that makes sense. So I'll probably, you know, I mean, that part of that will be in the slow journaling that's already happening with my eco print journals. I've got it here just to give you a sneak preview of next Friday. But the other thing I want to do along with that is use my words, as they say, use your words, because I know that sometimes in times of kind of personal stress or crisis or sadness or, you know, whatever, I tend to go into myself, and I'm aware that I feel a certain way, whether that's angry or sad or, you know, any of those things, without really giving conscious thought to why I feel those things. And sometimes I think I'm not even aware that I have those feelings until someone else points it out or someone else asks, you know. And I think that journaling creatively, using images and stitching and sticking and collage, and I don't, you know, whatever, I'll do all of that, painting, but also writing will help me with that. So I'm trying to fit that into the busy schedule that I've got planned for us all for next year. For those of you who would like to come along with me on that journey, the slow journaling, the eco print journal that I'm making now is more of a personal art journal. I'm thinking for next year I'd like to make a weekly journal. So, but maybe work on it daily, but I don't know exactly. But anyway, so that's wittering about that. But the word part of that, you know, the idea of putting words down on paper, whether you look for inspirational quotes or inspirational quotes come across your path, or the lines from a song, or you might hear someone say something in a film or on the radio, you know, anywhere that speaks to you somehow, to actually write those words down. I think the physical act of recording those words yourself kind of helps you get to know yourself a little bit better, if that makes sense. And I have been reading, I always read poetry and always have. I did English literature alongside my degree. You know, I just love literature. But I've been reading a lot of poetry later, and one of my go-to poets is Mary Oliver. And I wanted to read you one of her poems, but I didn't think I would be allowed, and I checked, and I'm not, because of copyright. If I read it to you, I would be put in YouTube prison, and I don't want to go into YouTube prison. But I would highly recommend, if you don't know Mary Oliver, you can look online, you'll find her poetry online. The poem Wild Geese, that really speaks to me, especially if I'm feeling low, especially if I'm struggling with self-esteem or, you know, things like that. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You'll have to go and read it yourself. I'm sorry I can't read it to you, but you know. This is one of the, I think I've got 3 or 4 volumes of her poems. This is quite an old one. I'm trying to see when it was published. I think it was in the 90s. Mary Oliver passed away, I think, in the early 2000s. Yes, this is from 1992. But it's a nice big thick one. It's got lots and lots of poems in, and a lot of my favourites. The Journey is another one that I love. How I Go to the Woods. I mean, there are many. So if you don't know Mary Oliver, have a look online, and you know, you can read some of her poems, and if they really speak to you, then you can maybe look for it second hand or from the library or whatever. I'm trying not to rustle as well. The other thing I did in the opening bit, I apologise for that, was I kept the microphones pinned to my, can you see that? Pinned to my hair. So if I move in a certain way, it rustles. So I'm trying to be careful. I'm going to have a sip of my tea. Excuse me. You got this, a lovely mug my friend gave me as a housewarming present. Always have my tea in it. I feel like I'm holding my head strange now because I don't want to knock the microphone. So this is my slow journal, sorry, the journal I'm making for the slow journaling project. It's not bound yet, it's just wrapped together. I've done a little bit more work selecting and folding papers and cloth and so on. So on Friday, next Friday, will be the next video in this series, if you're interested in following along with that. And I'll show you what's inside. Teasing you now. And then finally, here's a poem I can read you. I was a little bit in two minds about doing this. I don't care really if it's good or not, if it has any merit. But anyway, I wrote a poem and I just wanted to share it with you. So I've got it in here. This is a eco-printed bit of cloth that I made a long time ago. It's just some blanket on one side, an eco-print on the other that are just stitched parallel lines, and it's a book wrap, so it fits one of these moleskin journals, you know, a standard size. So the cover just tucks in the pocket, and then there's a bit of elastic sewn here. Oh, the bloomin' gas fan's coming back. I thought he'd gone. I hope he carries right on up. I don't know why he's going up and down and not. Sorry, I sound really stroppy. Why he doesn't go, you know, from one to the next. He's been up and done one, and then he's backed up and done another. Anyway, I think he's going far enough away. I hope so. What was I saying? Yes, and here's a bit of, it's actually repurposed elastic. It's got nearly no twang left, but it's just enough to hold that back page in. So anyway, and then when this moleskin's full, I can put another one in. You know, you can just keep using the wrap. I need to take my glasses off because I can't see up close. So this is a poem, What I Did Right, if you remember Morecambe and Wise, if you're in the UK. Here's a play, What I Wrote, called Life Is Not Still, inspired by the title of Maria's exhibition. I feel a bit self-conscious all of a sudden. Anyway, get on with it, Catherine. You've decided to do it, so do it. Life is not still. It marches relentlessly onwards with the single-mindedness of a destructive child, hell-bent on breaking something, anything. Life is not still. It throbs and pulsates with the timeless rhythm of an ancient drum, insisting that we dance, even on weary, aching feet. Life is not still, but sometimes it sleeps like the seed of a delicate flower cocooned in the earth beneath a blanket of snow. Life is not still. It crashes and heaves and retreats and crashes again onto the shore, leaving a messy tangle of flotsam in its wake. Turn the page. Life is not still, but there is stillness to be found in hidden pockets and secret corners. And in that stillness, crouching in the darkness, awaiting discovery, is joy. So, there we go. I wrote that. I started writing it yesterday evening and I sort of tweaked it this morning. And that was I was inspired by the words of Maria's exhibition and also my own personal journey. So I think writing things like that for me, rather than just, I know some people write letters to themselves or they'll just write stream of consciousness, whatever thoughts come into their head. I've always, dipped in and out of writing poetry. I haven't written poetry my whole life, but there have been times in my life when I had. I've got a stitch journal actually. I think I did a 100-day stitch journal, and every day I wrote a haiku to go along with the stitch piece. So I just wanted to share that with you, really. Well, I don't really have anything else to say. Well, I probably do, but I think I've said enough for one day. I have a sip of my tea. So I hoped you enjoyed the mishmash. That seems to be the word for these videos, but you don't seem to mind that, there's a bit of this and a bit of that. It's just how it is. It's how life is, and it's certainly how my life is. But anyway, thank you so much for being here and for watching and for your support and your love. It's just wonderful. And I hope wherever you are in the world, you're peaceful and happy. And I look forward to you joining me next time for more Park Home Life Tales. Bye bye.